Ladies and gentlemen, now please welcome the Honourable Kevin Rudd, Minister for Foreign Affairs.
It's great to be back in Sydney, Australia's gateway to the world. And for those of you who have come from all over the world, you are indeed here as our welcome guests. How many of you have come from a little country called Germany? There's lots of you, good in common. How many of you have come from a distant land called China? Good to see you, quite new. Those from Japan and elsewhere, good to see you in our midst as well, konnichiwa. And from other parts of the world, you are indeed welcome guests here in our country. And so, Guido, especially in honour of your presence, so let me make a few remarks in my appalling German. Ich heiße meinen guten Freund Guido Westerwelle, den Außenminister der Bundesrepublik Deutschland, herzlich willkommen. Willkommen in Sydney, das internationale Tor nach Australien. Willkommen am Sydney Hafen, denn der Gouverneur der höchsten europäischen Siedlung in Australien, Kapitän Arthur Phillip, als schönsten Naturhafen der Welt beschrieben hat. Kapitän Phillip war der Sohn eines Deutschen aus Frankfurt, der nach England ausgewandert war. Mit seinem scharfen deutschen Blick hat er diesen Hafen als wertvollen natürlichen Schatz erkannt. Willkommen in Australien, einer der stärksten Wirtschaftsnationen der Welt in den vergangenen 20 Jahren. Und willkommen zur CeBIT Australien. You're very kind, you're very generous, and you're very polite. Pardon my butchery of the German language, my Chinese is a bit better. But there's one thing I mentioned which our Australian and Chinese and German guests may not be aware of, and that is when the first European settlement occurred here in Australia. And Captain Arthur Phillip arrived just out there with 11 straggling ships from England in 1788. Arthur Phillip, the first captain governor of these English colonies, he himself was the son of a German merchant from Frankfurt. And so we have direct German lineage in this town from the first days of European settlement, Guido, and for that you are entirely responsible. To our other German guests, to Herr Stefan Weil, the Lord Mayor of Hanover, Supervisor of the Board of Deutsche Messe, the members of the Board of Deutsche Messe, to my colleague Andrew Stone, the Deputy Premier of New South Wales, Dr. Michael Witter, the German Ambassador to Australia, and Councillor Marcel Hoff, Deputy Lord Mayor of Sydney, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I have a speech here. You can read it on my website. Let me just say a few words of welcome and a little bit about Australia, a little bit about the region in which we live here in the Asia Pacific, and something about the future of information and communications technology in our part of the world, and then on Germany and Australia. So who are we in Australia? For those who are visiting here for the first time, a few facts and figures. This country, Australia, its economy is the fourth largest in Asia. China first, Japan second, India third, then Australia. We're about a 1.3 trillion US economy. We're therefore the 12th or 13th largest economy in the world. We are members with Germany of the G20, of the most industrial, of the largest industrialised economies in the world. As an economy, we've not been into recession for nearly 20 years. We have the lowest debt among all OECD countries, and despite natural disasters, Australia is set to lead all advanced economies back to returning to budget surplus in 2012-13. In fact, in 2012-13, Australia will be only one of the few advanced economies to have that status. That is who we are in aggregate. But we also exist in this dynamic region called the Asia-Pacific region. And it is here where the centre of geostrategic and geo-economic focus comes in the 21st century. There are 3.8 billion people living in our region. It is vast. By 2030, East Asia will represent of itself some 40% of global GDP. The story of our region is, of course, dominated by China, which has grown remarkably in the last 30 years. It is now the world's second largest economy, and, based on its current settings, will end up being the largest in the next decade or two. China has now announced its new growth model, what I call China 2.0, and that is moving to a new model of growth based on domestic consumption, the services sector, and cleaner, greener energy generation. By 2015, there will be some 93 cities in China, each with a population more than 5 million. There will be 8 cities in China, each with a population more than 10 million. In other words, in China, within a few years, you will have more than 100 cities, each with a population larger than Australia's largest here, and probably larger, I think, than the cities of Germany as well. This gives us something of an idea of the dimensions of economic change occurring in this, our region. Of course, elsewhere in our region, there is great growth as well. Japan's economy remains the world's third largest. Korea is an emerging mega-economy. India, now the world's fourth largest economy. Indonesia, Vietnam, and other regional economies are also growing fast. Here in Australia, we benefited from all these changes. We are deeply integrated in the economies of our region. Our mining services sector, our specialist manufacturing, our financial services sector. We have the fourth largest funds management industry anywhere in the world, at $1.7 trillion under management. Our architectural design and construction services sector are active right across our region. So too our education services sector, where we find so many people from across the world and across our region now studying in Australian education institutions. So too our tourism sector, the preferred destination of many within our region. And to service all these sectors of our economy, we are proud in this country to be genuinely multicultural. We have among us hundreds of thousands of Australian citizens, competent and comfortable in the language and cultures of the region of which we are now part. And this grants us a particular advantage in engaging these new emerging economies of the 21st century. We also have 5 of the world's top 100 universities. We have multiple world-ranking research institutes, including institutions like the CSIRO, whose researchers invented Wi-Fi and the critical technologies deployed by Cisco and Microsoft worldwide. We have a dynamic new materials sector, dynamic biotechnology and biomedical sectors. And we also have a dynamic ICT sector, which is here present this evening. Not just one driven by large-scale technology application, but in fact, one driven now by innovation, in part because governments, state and federal, are driving with you. We also in this country are laying out what is called a national broadband network to deliver world-class digital infrastructure to every Australian home, business, school, medical facility, connecting us not just to each other, but to the world, with bandwidth and band speed the rival of any on offer in the world. That is why we in this country are confident of where we stand in our economic future. Our fundamentals are strong, our investment in the new technologies are strong, our level of integration with the great growth economies of the world in this region are already deeply entrenched. A word or two about our own ICT sector. This is a dynamic sector. Minister Conroy, my colleague, outlined this morning Australia's digital economy strategy. It's ambitious. It seeks to achieve the following goals. By 2020, that Australia will rank in the top 5 OECD countries for the proportion of households connected to broadband at home. But for the top 5 OECD countries for the proportion of businesses and not-for-profit organisations who are organising themselves with productivity improvements driven out of their connectivity. With more than 500,000 telehealth consultations in a few years' time, particularly given the particular challenges of our vast distances and small populations. The key to achieving this, of course, is the National Broadband Network. It is an important national infrastructure project and by far the largest that this country has ever seen. When we look at Germany and Australia, these are two outward-focused economies that are taking advantage of the opportunities of growth. We've emerged, both of us, from the global financial crisis with our national economic reputations enhanced. Australia remains at the cutting edge of ICT development and in the overall digital economy. The quality of our scientific research institutions is ranked in the top 10 of 133 countries around the world. Of our 14 Nobel Prize winners, 13 have been in science. We've developed a number of global innovations, including Google Maps, pacemakers, polymer banknotes, wireless networking technology, as I referred to before, cochlear bionic ear, the cervical cancer vaccine, Gardasil, flu treatment, Relenza, just to name a few. And at CeBIT this afternoon, it's my great pleasure to see the work now being done on the bionic eye. Again, by NICTA and partnered also, as I understand, with the University of Melbourne. Great advances in providing people with the possibility of sight for the first time in their lives. Germany, too, is a world leader in innovation. Germany is at the forefront of science, research, clean energy, technology and innovation. Australia is second only to Japan as a collaborative research partner with Germany in the Asia-Pacific region. It's a strong partnership. It's a good partnership. And this year we, through the CSIRO, signed an MOU with the Max Planck Institute for Radio Astronomy and the Fraunhofer Institute for Solar Energy Systems to foster scientific and research collaboration in renewable energy. It follows further initiatives that we've launched between the two governments in solar, photovoltaics, in nanotechnology, environmental research and technologies, ICT, geosciences and marine sciences. And these areas we intend to work harder in the future. Finally, about where we are now in our relationship with one another. Australia is Germany's 10th largest trading partner, the second largest among the EU. A total of $14 billion in total trade recorded in 2009. Germany is Australia's 7th largest investor. Now, two-way investment is now valued at some $78 billion. Germany is currently also the largest source of foreign students from Europe studying in Australia. Guido, they come for study, they come for sunshine, and they come for the wine. Australia hosts over 650 German-owned businesses, including 240 German subsidiaries which employ more than 100,000 people. These are good bonds, they are strong bonds, and they also form part of the wider fabric of our relationship. Strong political links. Guido and I see each other every several weeks somewhere around the world, and we welcome him strongly, warmly to Australia on his first visit here as the Foreign Minister of the Federal Republic. We also work very closely on the detailed foreign policy challenges we face in the world. We are close security policy partners, for example in Afghanistan, where tragically both our countries have lost brave soldiers, ours 2 more in just the last day. The commercial links between us are also growing stronger. And now through CeBIT, we are growing our engagement in the vital ICT sector in the future. To conclude, this is an important global trade show. It's important for both of our economies. Important also for the continued innovation that the ICT sector will generate. It's important for revolutionising the way in which we do business, for revolutionising the way in which businesses do business, for driving the next generation of productivity reform, important in driving energy efficiency, important in driving renewable energy innovation, important in improving healthcare, particularly in remote areas, important in what we call the education revolution, irrespective of distance, important too in reforming the way in which government does its own business. You may have seen at CeBIT today the representation from the Australian Government, the New South Wales Government, on how the business of government itself can be made better with greater and more effective application of the new innovations in ICT. It's also having its impact on how we as foreign ministers do our work as well. We now regularly talk with our constituents and our friends and partners around the world through the Twitterverse, on Facebook, and also through YouTube. The social media is now deployed by us in getting travel messages out to our travelling public when they face changes in security circumstances wherever they may be around the world. So therefore, when we look at the future of this sector, the economic needs, the social needs, they are great. But so too are the business opportunities, both for Germany and for Australia. So let's work on this great path-breaking enterprise for the future. Good for Germany, good for Australia, and good also